YouTube boxing promotions. We have seen many come and go. Many have failed at this point. We've seen Social Gloves, Creator Clash, now Kingpin, and it seems like Misfits is the only one who knows what they're doing at this point. Which leads us to the question, will Misfits become the UFC of influencer boxing?
He's done it from time to time, just every bit of...
From the United Kingdom, the Nightmare. Hey!
Alright, so why the UFC? What is the comparison there between the UFC and Misfits boxing? If you follow MMA at all, you know that the UFC is by far the biggest promotion out there. It is pretty much a monopoly at this point. They have the best competition. It's where the most elite fighters are, and they do not like the other organizations. They want to stay at the top and will always want to keep it that way. It has been like that for many years now. If anything, now the competition is starting to stack up a little bit against the UFC. There has been some more conversation about that recently, other organizations rising up, but that's another conversation for another day. When KSI first announced the idea of Misfits boxing, it was very much inspired by the UFC model. We have heard Mams Taylor make direct comparisons between Misfits boxing and the UFC. He talks about how the non-pay-per-view events are ran like UFC fight nights. Usually not the biggest stars on those events. It is a way of building up new fighters that we could potentially see in the future, and it's just a way of providing us with more fights. You know, the idea was to create an umbrella for all of YouTube boxing. They wanted the different weight divisions, and all the YouTube boxers could come over to Misfits. Each weight class has their champion, and Misfits would be the ultimate way of proving you're one of the best YouTube boxers. And when that announcement went down, I kind of expected that to happen. But we started to see other competitions such as Kingpin. I'd say that's the number one that really took away some fighters from Misfits, made a name for itself. They started to take some fighters away from Misfits, at least for some time. And the big thing everyone was talking about back then was the money. Kingpin was reportedly making these huge offers, way more than what Misfits was offering. We know this. Obviously, the big one was Gib. He made the video talking about the money comparisons between Misfits and Kingpin, and they were not very close. And obviously, Kingpin is not the only other promotion that has done business to be a competitor to Misfits. We have seen Social Gloves in the past. We have seen Creator Clash, Kingpin, Global Titans. But one thing all these other companies are starting to have in common, they're all failing. They're all going bankrupt pretty much. It seems like a lot of the time they are offering contracts money that they cannot afford. They are completely overestimating how many people are going to buy these events, not taking into consideration the amount of illegal streams that are going to happen. Kingpin reportedly lost $3 to $4 million on their first event. We know Creator Clash lost a lot of money on its second event. And when all these different companies were going on at the same time, it definitely hurt what Misfits was trying to accomplish. With Misfits' goal of being that UFC type of promotion, having champions for each weight division, that can't happen unless the majority of competition, the highest of competition, is in your promotion. And it looks like that might be the direction things are heading in. When it came out that these contracts Kingpin were sending to fighters were just insane, the money was way better than Misfits, a lot of people started criticizing Misfits, saying, why don't you guys match these offers? Why aren't you guys paying more? The fighters are worth more than what you guys are paying. I don't think that's the case. We've seen time and time again, all the companies I already named, the big problem is that they're paying these guys more than they can afford. It seems like Misfits Boxing is the only company who is managing their money well. They might not be offering as much as Kingpin, but you know you're going to get paid for what is in the contract. From what I have heard, Misfits has always done a great job of that. There's never really been drama around that, and that is exactly what they need to do, what an organization needs to do in order to succeed. And Misfits is the only one who's throwing event after event without these problems. They are having more events than all of these organizations, and it's not even close. I'm all about the fighters getting paid. I'm not saying that you should lowball these fighters and they should just take the money. But I do think at some point you gotta be realistic about how much a promotion can afford to pay you. Misfit just turned 1 year old. It has been 1 year since that first KSI event. The pay is going to go up from here. This thing is fresh, and if they keep building and building, eventually the numbers are gonna go up. That's why these fighters have to be careful about these crazy numbers that are being promised from other organizations. And I think people are starting to catch on about that now. I think a lot more fighters are gonna wanna just stay on Misfits. It's a lot less of a risk. You know that's where the eyes are. You know you're getting what you're contracted for. And I do think we are going to start seeing that UFC format even more for Misfits. They have been talking more and more and pushing more about the belts, about the weight classes. There's not a million weight classes like in boxing. It's more of that UFC format. They're talking about having all these different types of title fights. I think 7 different title fights on the Prime card. They want to get those champions, build up those names, and they want to create this UFC style promotion. That's what their goal was in the beginning. It got sidelined for a bit, but I think they are going to continue pushing for it even further now. And it is definitely a smart move. I would love to see that format. I would love to see people fighting for the belts, working their way toward the title, having some rankings to where you want to see the right matchups. They've been posting about the weight divisions and the title fights, and I am very excited to see how it plays out, because I think it would be even more of a draw to have that extra interest besides just good matchups. You want the good matchups, but you also want them to mean something. If they are fighting for a ranking or a title, it just adds to the moment. And honestly, I don't see any organization really catching up to Misfits at this point. We've got a lot of Misfits boxing coming up soon. We got that Misfits 9 event coming up, and then the Prime card. They are going full speed, pushing out these events, and I'm happy to see the success they're having. So in conclusion, yes, I do think Misfits is turning into the UFC of influencer boxing. It's starting to pull away from the competition, and it's adapting that format more and more. But what do you guys think? Do you think more organizations are going to come into the scene, try to be more competition for Misfits? Is it over for Kingpin at this point? Subscribe for more boxing content and updates. The support is much appreciated. Thank you for watching. Peace.